The complete story. The Book of Psalms, as you've never seen it before. Have you ever wondered why so many people, throughout the centuries, turn to in the most difficult moments of life? Why does this ancient collection of chants and prayers continue to resonate so strongly today, more than 3,000 years after they were written? Maybe you have already opened the Bible at random and found comfort in a psalm that seemed to have been written exactly for you. Or perhaps you have seen someone reciting a psalm amidst pain, loss, hope. But what lies behind these words? Who really wrote the Psalms? And why do they remain so alive and powerful to this day? Today, you will learn the complete history of As You Have Never Seen It Before, from its mysterious origins, through its role in the history of the people to the impact they continue to have on the modern world. Get ready, because what you are about to hear may forever transform the way you read and feel each word of the Psalms. The origin of the Psalms, the song of the human soul, the called in Hebrew Tehillim, praises, is a collection of 150 songs, prayers, and poems. Many were written over 30 years ago. They were born in the heart of the ancient, in the time of kings, prophets, and priests. Most of the Psalms are attributed to King David, the same young shepherd who defeated Goliath and later became the most famous king of Israel. According to tradition, David composed about 73 psalms, perhaps more. Other authors include Psalm 90, Psalms 72 and 127, the sons of, and, in other words, the Psalms were not written by a single person, but are the result of centuries of spiritual experiences, pains, victories, and revelations. Think about it. Each psalm carries raw and sincere human emotions: joy, sadness, fear, hope, anger, gratitude, love. They are the diary of the human soul before God. Psalms, songs for the temple. The Psalms were originally songs, not just texts for reading. They were sung with harps, lyres, cymbals, and flutes. They were the soundtrack of worship in the ancient world. Imagine the Levites singing with thousands of voices echoing through the golden temple, while the pilgrims ascended the stairs with tears in their eyes and hearts filled with joy. This means that each psalm is not just a prayer. It is a spiritual melody made to touch the heart and the heavens at the same time. Question: have you ever felt like a song has healed you from within? So can you imagine the power of the Psalms sung in the heart of ancient Jerusalem? Psalms in times of war and despair. But the Psalms were not used only in times of celebration. Many of them were born on the battlefield, wrote psalms while fleeing, hidden in caves, pursued by. He cried out for help, for justice, for deliverance. Psalm 18 says, "I cried out to the Lord, and from his temple he heard my voice." These words were written by someone surrounded by enemies, who believed that God could hear even in the midst of chaos. Have you ever gone through moments when everything seemed lost and yet you found the strength to cry out? This is the spirit of the Psalms prayers shouted in the midst of the storm. The Psalms in the Babylonian exile. When the temple was destroyed and the people were taken to Babylon, the Psalms became the only link the Jews had with the faith of their ancestors. Without a temple, without priests, without an altar, all that remained were the words. Psalm 137, for example, was written in exile by the rivers of "We sat down and wept, remembering." Can you feel the weight of these words? It is the lament of a people who lost everything but kept hope alive through sacred poetry. The organization of the 150 Psalms. Over time, all these chants were gathered into a single volume, divided into 5 internal books, a structure that many scholars believe was inspired by the 5 books of These 5 blocks are: 1. Psalms 1, 40, 1-2, Psalms 42, 72, 3, Psalms 73, 89, 4, Psalms 90, 106:5, Psalms 107, 150. Each block ends with a doxology, a phrase of praise, as if it were the final signature of a celestial chapter. This structure shows that the Psalms were carefully edited and organized over centuries to become a true spiritual manual. Types of Psalms and what they are for. Did you know that there are different categories of Psalms, each with a specific spiritual function? The main types are Psalms of praise, exalt the greatness of God. Psalms of thanksgiving, give thanks for deliverances and blessings. Psalms of lament, outpourings of pain, sadness, and anguish. Royal Psalms, speak about the King, the Messiah, and divine government. Wisdom Psalms, bring teachings and reflections. Imprecatory Psalms, cry out for justice against enemies. This means that there is a psalm for every state of the human soul. Are you happy? There is a psalm for that. Are you afraid? There is also one. Are you outraged and want justice? The ancients also wanted it, and God welcomed even those cries. The spiritual language of the Psalms. The Psalms are full of metaphors, poetic images, and spiritual symbols. They speak of God as rock, shepherd, shield, light, fortress, secure tower, refuge. This language is not by chance. It is the way the soul expresses the invisible with visible words. Question: if you had to describe God with an image, what would it be? That is the beauty of the Psalms. Each person finds a new image, a new face of God. The Psalms and few people know, but the Psalms were the most cited book by Jesus. And the apostles in the crucifixion, Jesus cried out, my God, why have you forsaken me?" Psalm 22. That is, even at the moment of death, Jesus prayed with the Psalms. Many Psalms are considered prophecies about the Messiah, such as Psalm 2 speaks of the enthroned Son, Psalm 16 speaks of the resurrection, Psalm 110 speaks of the eternal priest. This shows that the Psalms are more than just ancient prayers. They point to the eternal plan of redemption. The worldwide impact of the Psalms. Over time, the Psalms crossed the borders of and spread throughout the world. They were translated into hundreds of languages and became the most read and sung part of the medieval monasteries. Recited the 150 Psalms every week. Christian hymns were directly inspired by them. Today, millions of people still use them daily to pray, meditate, ask for strength, or give thanks. Do you know any other book that continues to heal hearts 3,000 years after it was written? The Psalms in modern psychology. Curiously, even science has begun to study the effects of the Psalms. Research shows that reciting sacred texts like the Psalms can reduce anxiety, alleviate symptoms of depression, and increase the sense of well-being and hope. This is because the Psalms activate areas of the brain linked to faith, memory, and emotion, creating a state of security and spiritual connection. In other words, what the ancients knew through faith, science is now beginning to prove. The Psalms as a spiritual weapon. Many Christian and Jewish traditions use the Psalms in prayers for spiritual protection. Psalm 91 is known as the believer's shield. He who dwells in the shelter of the Most High. Psalm 23 comforts in the dark valleys. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. Millions of people recite these Psalms as true, spiritual decrees of victory. And you? Have you ever used a Psalm to face a moment of fear or spiritual battle? The Psalms and the journey of the soul. At heart, the Psalms tell a story. The story of the human soul walking from chaos to redemption. They begin with cries, go through doubts, face the silence of God, but they end with praise and confidence. The last Psalm simply says, "Let every creature that has breath praise the Lord. After everything, only worship remains." It's as if the Psalms were saying, even if you go through the valley, the end of the road is the presence of God. How to read the Psalms in a transformative way. If you want to experience the real power of the Psalms, here are simple steps. 1. Choose a psalm for each day. Choose a psalm for each day. 2. Read aloud like someone singing to the sky. 3. Replace the generic names and put yours. The Lord is my shepherd. 4. Write in a notebook what you felt. Write in a notebook what you felt. 5. End with a moment of silence. Do this for 30 days and see how your mind and heart change. Little known curiosities. The shortest psalm is 117, only 2 verses. The longest is 119, with 176 verses, an acrostic of the Hebrew alphabet. Some psalms were written in ancient Aramaic, not just Hebrew. He called the psalms the Little Bible because they contain all the themes of faith. Did you know all of this? In other words, each verse of the Psalms carries a hidden universe within itself. The Psalms in the modern world. Today, the Psalms are present in gospel music, contemporary worship songs, literature, films, and social media. Phrases like, "The Lord is my shepherd," or "a lamp for my feet," appear in tattoos, t-shirts, and photo captions. Even in a world that chases after technology and haste, the Psalms continue to offer something that nothing else does. Silence for the soul and hope for the heart. Silence for the soul and hope for the heart. The eternal power of the Psalms. It is more than a book. It is a mirror of the human soul. It shows that we can present ourselves to God with all our emotions, joy and fear, faith and doubt, love and anger, and He does not reject us for it. The Psalms show that God does not demand perfection, but sincerity. They accompanied kings and slaves, shepherds and prophets, monks and martyrs, soldiers and mothers, ordinary people like you. And today, they can accompany you as well. So I ask you, what is your favorite psalm? Has it ever happened that a psalm touched you as if it had been written for you? Write here in the comments. Because maybe your favorite verse is exactly what someone needs to hear right now.